This actually was a newspaper story, and they also found under his pillow, they found all the pills that he had been made to take. He had spit them back out. And they also found a coffee maker in his closet that he kept with an extension cord in order to stay awake. So I just found this whole story so remarkable that it just suggested a movie. And then the problem was, dramatically figure out who's getting him from the other side and construct that whole story.
Okay, Wes, hang on with us. We're gonna go back to the movie now, but I've got lots more questions to ask you about the early part of your career. Okay, roll it.
MonsterVision host Professor Joe Bob Briggs and Wes Craven's new Nightmare on TNT.
And that was the great John Saxon playing himself in the playground scene. John was, of course, Heather's father in Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and Nightmare Part 3. He's best known for being a bad guy in some of the greatest B-movies ever made, including Enter the Dragon, the original Bruce Lee classic. But Wes Craven is still on the line with us. And Wes, I wanted to ask you about one of your more recent triumphs, Scream. Because Nightmare on Elm Street was your big success of the 80s. Scream is the most successful horror film of the 90s. Are you now stereotyped forever as the master of horror?
No, I just like to do once a decade a really smash hit. But no, actually, the next picture I'm doing, called 50 Violins, is a completely non-genre drama about a music teacher who teaches classical violin in East Harlem. It's based on the life of an actual woman that had an Academy-nominated documentary made about her 2 years ago called Small Wonders. And we're starting shooting that in August, and Madonna is starring. So it's going to be a complete change of pace for me, and I think for my audience, too.
I also wanted to ask you about a movie that I thought would become an enormous hit called Shocker, about a serial killer who attacks children through their video screens. Were you attempting to create another Freddy Krueger with that?
Unashamedly so. I mean, it really was, I sat down and said, okay, Freddy came out of the dreams of children. What is another sort of forum like that? Where is another place where we kind of dream? And it seemed like the nearest to that we get, and it's actually quite near, according to psychologists, is the state of watching television. So I was fascinated. There's a couple of great books written on, there's one called The Body Electric, about the whole effect of sort of the electromagnetic invasion of the human mind. A tremendous network of computers and television images and telephone and faxes and everything else spreading over the whole planet, which really, if you look at it, is a neural system. And it has influenced the way we see reality and the way we can manipulate reality. And in a sense, it could almost be perceived that it has begun to manipulate us. So that, all that philosophical background in mind, the idea was to create a person that sort of could move through that and emerge from it, very much like Freddy did through and from dreams. So I don't know whether it was a little bit ahead of its time or what, but it just didn't quite click, and I never was able to quite figure out why. But I like the picture a lot.
Thanks, Wes. Stick around, okay? So, Freddy Krueger is back. Robert Englund in a dual role as himself and Freddy Krueger. Robert has pretty much beat this horse for 13 years now, hasn't he? Are you surprised that little kids like Freddy Krueger so much?
At first I was a little surprised that kids like Freddy. I thought, and I think they were initially terrified by him. But when I started to think of it in kind of academic terms, I think I found the solution, and that is almost in any society, including the society of kids, you will find that the thing that terrifies us most is sooner or later adopted and kind of preempted by the person that is fearful.
I guess there's just something about a burn victim child molester with 6-inch knives on his fingers that just gets that 9-year-old imagination pumping. I mean, kids send me drawings of Freddy Krueger all the time, so I can imagine what you must get in the mail.
Well, I do. I get drawings of Freddy all the time, and I get requests to draw Freddy for them and autograph claws and everything else. I think, that there was something about Freddy that really struck a chord with children, and that is he was that adult that took his greatest pleasure in causing grievous harm to the most innocent. And to a child who is growing up in a world of adults, that many of whom are very scary. I mean, all parents are always saying, don't get into a car with a stranger, don't go there because of, the kid gets the message that there are people out there that, can really hurt kids. For that reason, I think that they identified Freddy as, that is the guy that my parents are always warning me about. So it really struck a chord, and they really responded to him very strongly.
You realize that you're probably more hated by mothers than any other man in America?
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. No, I think I kind of mystify parents because they don't know why their kids identify so strongly with my characters, and they're kind of worried that it's going to mean that their kids are going to turn into mass murderers. But, you know, I've been doing this now for going on 27 years, and I've met tons of people that were kids when they saw my first films who are now, you know, perfectly normal adults. So parents, usually they just look at me like, well, I don't know why my kid, you know, wants your autograph. I don't think they hate me. They just don't understand how it works.
Okay. We're going to go back to the movie now, and I'm only kidding, Wes. I don't think they hate you. I'm sure your own mom loved you. She just worried about how you turned out.
New Nightmare on TNT.
All right, Wes Craven is with us here, and Wes, we just watched the great scene where you play yourself as the director of Wes Craven's New Nightmare. How would you rate Wes Craven as an actor?
I would recommend that he not quit his day job. I found that one of the trickier things I've ever done, ever since I've had immense respect for Mel Gibson in Braveheart, because you know, when it's the most obvious thing in the world, but when you're acting, you can't see what you're doing, and what you do as a director is watch people act and make decisions and judgments based on watching them. But I guess you go back and you try to listen to it through earphones and on a television set, but you really become reliant upon people around you.
You went to Wheaton College. Now, isn't Wheaton College one of those super fundamentalist Bible colleges where they think you're going to hell if you watch a Freddy Krueger movie?
Yeah, well, I come over with a background that probably everybody associated with that background thinks I'm going to hell or is already there. And Wheaton was considered conservative by my church's standards, which is the church I grew up in. So, yeah, I was in trouble at Wheaton. At a certain point, they were begging me to leave. And I was editor of the literary magazine, and it was canceled in the middle of its publication year and never allowed to publish again for so long as I was there. So I was always kind of in trouble with that whole zeitgeist that I came out of, but probably it made me as crazy as I am.
Do you think you got your twisted imagination because of going to Wheaton College?
You know, I think being raised in a very restricted environment does kind of make you a little nuts, or a little like when you finally do get your chance to say what you really think, you do it at top volume. I kind of did an informal poll of people that came out of similar backgrounds, like Sam Kinison, Alice Cooper. You know, there's a lot of people that have been very radical in their art forms. They came out of very conservative religious backgrounds.
Okay, well, even if you are going to hell, we still love you, Wes. We like you being a reprobate. So let's get back to one of your finest movies, Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Do you consider this one of your best scripts?
Yeah, I actually do feel. I think that Wes Craven's New Nightmare kind of, for me, broke new ground. I think it was intellectually, artistically really challenging and fun.
Well, I certainly like it. I think it's a dang near perfect script.